Set in an apocalyptic and dystopian Earth, where the remnants of the global population are crammed into a few overcrowded cities, including the sprawling concrete jungle of Mega City 1, the comic titled Predator vs. Judge Dredd vs. Aliens, Splice and Dice brings in a remarkable character in the form of one Dr. Niels Reinstadt, a crazy gene-splicing scientist who likes to call himself Geneticist Supreme. Reinstadt has experimented on unwitting children and created animal-human hybrids called Animen, but he unleashes the true horror when he finds a crashed Predator ship in which there is a xenomorph skull. He uses the DNA of the xenomorph to experiment not just on other humans and a Predator, but also on himself. So brace yourself for a thrilling journey filled with relentless action, high-stakes confrontations, and an unyielding battle for justice as we explore the 4 issues of Splice and Dice and discover what a mess Reinstadt is. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request, however. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is just a little click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you very much. Now let's begin. A Geneticist Supreme. The first issue of this magnificent 4-issue comic brings 3 uber-powerful cinematic forces to the same table and lets them unleash their wrath against each other. And of course, the man responsible for all the chaos is Dr. Niels Reinstadt, the dark star of today's show. The issue begins with a flashback from a few weeks before the actual events. We see a silhouette, and it doesn't take a Batman to figure out that this big guy running through the woods, lovely, deep, dark, is a Yautja, an apex predator who comes from a sky far, far away and from a culture of hunters who are respected and feared throughout the galaxy. The camouflaging expert and trophy collector is known for killing and surviving, but today is different. Today, the predator is the prey, and instead of stalking and surviving, he's the one being tracked and hunted. You can see that he's injured and the green blood is spilling out of his abdomen. While it's quite rare to see a predator getting stabbed with spears, who are his hunters? Well, it's a group of mutilated beings that the comic likes to call Animen. The humanoid, raccoon, rhino, bear and gorilla are animalistic, and yet they are as smart as a regular human, sapient and intelligent. Furthermore, they carry weapons. The good fellas have managed to take down a predator, and that's nothing short of an achievement. The Animen have been created by Dr. Reinstadt by splicing the DNAs of wild animals and humans, and the final result is the best of both worlds. But the Animen prove to be too lethal on the predator and nearly kill him. The Bookman reminds the others that Dr. Reinstadt will want the alien alive so that he can do his little tricks on him, and so the Animen take the predator to Reinstadt's facility, situated deep within the Alabama morass, a place where people go on their own accord but never return. It's now that we actually meet Mr. Reinstadt himself, a most horrid man who has performed genetic experiments on himself as well as others. As of now, he has 2 extra eyes right beneath his human eyes, which nearly give him the appearance of a spider's head. You see, this guy has the predator in his custody and is planning to plant a xenomorph facehugger on the predator. But how does Reinstadt get hold of a facehugger? Well, as you may know, predators carry facehuggers along with them, right? So that they can unleash the creatures on a planet in order to create xenomorphs for their hunt. And the Geneticist Supreme, as Reinstadt likes to call himself, is going to create an impressive new species using the predator and the facehugger. It's too bad he doesn't know that predaliens are actually a thing, but I shouldn't blame him for not watching the Alien vs Predator Requiem. Who did? Anyway, Reinstadt gets interrupted by one of the feral henchmen about a bunch of trespassers in the morass. Well, Judge Dredd, the peacekeeper of Mega City 1, is after a robotic terrorist named Archbishop Emoji, who is basically a psychotic messiah of violent cultists. Naturally, Judge Dredd goes after Archbishop Emoji. However, Reinstadt already knows about the judges from Mega City 1, and they have tripped one of his surveillance bots while entering the morass. The trespassers that Reinstadt's henchmen have come to inform him about is the group of 4 other predators who are in the vicinity. So why have they come here? Are they with the abducted predator, or are they here for another ritualistic hunt? So let's find out in the next issue. Collision Course. The predators are returning from a hunt when they intercept the distress signal that brings them to Earth. Tracing the source of the transmission to a swampy overgrowth located within the vast radioactive wasteland in one of the northern continents, the expert trackers quickly piece together what has happened, that one of their own has been pursued, injured and captured, and so a different kind of hunt begins. And even if he is dead, he has to be avenged. But what happens after that is far more difficult to determine. The predators find a multitude of animal tracks, and not far away, they discover trails belonging to some sort of native land-based vehicle. Well, it is the tire tracks of the uber-cool motorbikes that the judges ride. Meanwhile, Judge Dredd is hot on Archbishop Emoji's trail, and trust me, the crazy robotic zealot is firing at the judges and each one of them named Gilligan takes a shot. But of course, Dredd uses his lawgiver to deliver some armor-piercing and high-explosive justice on Archbishop Emoji, and that almost ends the cyber menace once and for all. Except for Reinstadt's Ani-Men, who come on his orders to apprehend the judges. Why? Well, Reinstadt wants more subjects, and who better than a bunch of judges? The judges are taken to the facility and incapacitated, except for, of course, Judge Dredd. When he comes to the rescue of his colleagues, he is surprised to see the mastermind of the abduction is Reinstadt, because you see 5 years previously, the mad scientist had gone to an orphanage disguised as a social service guy. On the pretext of giving the children doses of a vaccine, he injected them with something far more sinister. Judge Dredd was the first to the scene and he shot Reinstadt in the head. So how was this guy still alive? Well, the four-eyed evil geneticist had staged a decoy and made Dredd kill the innocent man instead. The man had a homicidal reaction when Reinstadt escaped. The psychic judge named Anderson tells Dredd that their enemy's head was like a pot of boiling, swirling evil and madness and, yes, spiders. To which Reinstadt said, "Oh yes, the earliest experiments with my DNA infuser formula utilized bug DNA, insects and arachnids." But that formula was highly unstable, so Reinstadt decided to get away from the disapproval of the Mega City 1 academics and away from what he called the dictatorial constraints of the Justice Department. Once he found his seclusion, he refined and perfected his formula, using the DNA of the multitude of mammalian creatures that the Alabama morass could offer as Reinstadt's blank canvas. And just when Reinstadt began to think that his job was done, fate provided him with what he believed was true perfection, a creature designed specifically to kill, survive and procreate. Yes, he was talking about the xenomorphs. The spider-obsessed scientist has extracted DNA from a xenomorph skull and he's used it to create another formula, which he injects into Judge McCrary. The formula fuses with the DNA of McCrary and what remains is a random amalgamation of a xenomorph and a human. Reinstadt has spent his entire life trying to create a perfect harmony between separate sets of DNA, but what he wants to do through science, the xenomorph does through its own biology. And let's just say that what becomes of McCrary is a fate far worse than death. To make things worse, Reinstadt plants a facehugger on another judge and a chest burster erupts from the predator that the Ani-Men have brought in. Additionally, Reinstadt wants to use Judge Anderson as the host for a xenomorph queen. Probably the only joy one could find in all this misery comes from the fact that the other 4 predators have reached Reinstadt's facility, guns blazing and putting up a good fight to try and get their friend back. Savage science. By the end of the second issue, Judge Dredd has also been captured. Dredd gives Reinstadt an offer, his release in return for Reinstadt's life. Although in jail, Reinstadt is clearly shocked at the blatant guts that Dredd is displaying, and honestly it isn't quite a realistic threat, but then Judge Dredd is Judge Dredd and one doesn't gain such a reputation by not living up to one's words. On the other hand, the 4 predators are turning the place outside Reinstadt's lab into a garden of cadavers. Even the mad scientist is shocked to see the carnage and wonders how they can shed such blood when the Ani-Men procures one of the predators, but then again that guy had crash landed on Earth. He was injured and taken by surprise. Back at the lab, Dredd finds himself sandwiched between the Predalien and a mutated McCrary, but Psy Judge Anderson builds a psychic connection with Judge McCrary and she appeals to whatever human part remains in him through connection to help Judge Dredd. Anderson's efforts result in success when the mutated McCrary engages in combat with the Predalien, ultimately incapacitating the abomination. Meanwhile, Anderson is losing control over McCrary's mind as his humanity gradually fades away. Despite this, she manages to utilize the mutated McCrary to rescue Judge Dredd, who carries the face-hugged Judge Gilligan with him as they escape the laboratory. Upon exiting the facility, Judge Dredd is met with a horrifying sight. The area is littered with skinned and mutilated bodies bearing the unmistakable signature of the predators. Judge Dredd, hoping to cure Judge Gilligan, intends to bring him back to Mega City 1. However, unbeknownst to him, Judge Gilligan is beyond saving. Tragically, Judge Gilligan meets his ends at the hand of a predator while still in Judge Dredd's embrace. Enraged by this turn of events, Judge Dredd launches an attack on the predator responsible for killing Judge Gilligan. The battle is interrupted by the side Judge Anderson, who reveals that the predators have not only freed her but are actually fighting on the side of justice. Anderson explains that Judge Gilligan is already doomed consumed and provides insights into the reproductive cycle of the xenomorphs. She reveals that the predators, known as the Yautja, are hunters who seek to eliminate the xenomorph threat. Realizing that his enemy's enemy can be his ally, Judge Dredd forms an unlikely alliance with the predators, who possess immense power and share his goal of eradicating the xenomorphs. The xenomorphs from the laboratory have escaped into the treacherous swamps, and while the predators are renowned as the galaxy's apex hunters, the xenomorphs are considered the ultimate killers. A brutal confrontation takes place between the opposing forces, with each side displaying equal ferocity. However, an even greater threat emerges from the skies in the form of Reinstadt, who has taken control of the Predator ship. Reinstadt employs his animal men as hosts for the facehuggers contained within the ship, while Archbishop Emoji pilots the vessel. Interestingly, Reinstadt seeks to bring about the apocalypse while Emoji aims for salvation and purification. Despite their differing motives, both plan to unleash the xenomorphs upon Mega City 1. The situation escalates and the battle for survival intensifies as the transformed McCrary engages one of the predators, with the Predalien close behind. The final battle. After fixing the ship of the captured Predator, which has crash-landed in the Alabama morass and was later taken hostage by Reinstadt's animal men, Judge Dredd, Psy, Judge Anderson, and the Predators embark on their journey back to Mega City 1. However, upon their arrival, they discover that they are too late to prevent the unleashed xenomorphs from wreaking havoc. Reinstadt has already set the fearsome creatures loose, resulting in the massacre of numerous followers of Archbishop Emoji within hours. A significant portion of Mega City 1 falls victim to the xenomorph onslaught. Judge Dredd seeks permission to land the alien aircraft in Mega City 1, but his request is denied due to the unauthorized nature of the craft and the presence of two unidentified creatures on board. Despite Dredd's warnings about the dire consequences of disregarding these extraterrestrial beings, the bureaucratic red tape proves insurmountable. Realizing that they are now on their own, Dredd, Anderson and the Predators begin tracking the xenomorphs. As they follow the xenomorph trail, they stumble upon piles of bodies, yet the Predators notice that there is more blood present than accounted for by the corpses. This raises questions as to what has happened to the other bodies. Meanwhile, various types of xenomorphs ranging from buffalo xenomorphs to elephant xenomorphs unleash their wrath upon the residents of Mega City 1, catering to a variety of deadly preferences. The Xeno hunters soon discover that one of the acid blood beasts is attempting to abduct a civilian. They pursue the creature, which leads them to an abandoned building where they discover the missing civilians. However, the civilians are not found in the expected conditions. They have been cocooned to serve as hosts for the numerous facehuggers that emerged from the ovomorphs laid by the Xenomorph Queen. Intriguingly, the Queen Xenomorph is revealed to be none other than Reinstadt, the Splice Doctor. Dredd and his companions destroy the lair filled with facehuggers and ovomorphs before eliminating the Xenomorph Queen, a monstrosity like no other. I mean, I've worked on a lot of Xenomorph videos, and trust me, this one is definitely the worst one ever. Following their victory, the Predators bid farewell to Judge Dredd, whom they recognize as an honorable hunter and a worthy adversary. However, Dredd cautions them against returning to Earth, as doing so will be in violation of the law. After all, he, Judge Dredd, represents the law himself. With this warning in mind, the Predators depart from Earth, leaving Mega City 1 to rebuild and recover from the devastating xenomorph invasion. Marvelous verdict. Dr. Niels Reinstadt is one of the worst mad scientists ever seen in the alien universe. Even before his involvement with the extraterrestrial creatures, Reinstadt performed unscrupulous experiments. Using his expertise in gene splicing, he embarked on a macabre undertaking, fusing the genetic material of predators and xenomorphs. This sinister creation gave rise to the Predalien and xenomorph hybrids. Simply dark stuff. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't done so already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.